to this week's version of or episode of Mixed Media Monday. I spoke about this page that I made in my December daily video, and so I wanted to quickly just show you how I made that page. So this is a sheet of cardboard, and the sheet of cardboard, it came as the form for the binder that I'm putting my December daily in. And so that's why it has the creases down the middle, and I'm not too concerned about those creases. They can stay in there, that's okay. So what I'm doing first is I'm sealing in the cardboard. I'm putting on a layer of gesso just to make sure that it's all nice and closed off and sealed in. And then that means that anything that I put on after this won't have a problem with being absorbed, like paint and stuff. A cardboard surface will just absorb the paint and potentially lift and lift and lift and fall apart. So what I wanted to do was make sure that I had prepped it first. Now, these flowers, I believe, are from a Kaiser Craft package, and they are a sticker, and I'm trying to get them to fit on the page. So I'm snipping them, I'm layering them, I'm putting them on top of that gesso, and making sure that I lay them out just perfectly. I pull the backing off, I glue it all down. Like, this is exactly as I wanted it to do. Now, originally what I wanted this page to be is just a couple different layers of paper, and then I was going to put some stamping on it and a title, and that was about it. I really didn't have a plan for this so much. So as I was laying down these flowers, I realized that the background, I wanted to do more with the background. I didn't know if I wanted to stamp it. I didn't know if I wanted to add some layers of collage or what I wanted to do with it. But I realized after I got these stickers all nicely laid down and set up exactly as I wanted them, that they weren't quite exactly as I wanted them because I hadn't given a background to the page. Now I thought, okay, it's okay, I'll just do a background over top. But as I was laying these down meticulously, it was bothering me more and more and more that there was no background for these flowers. And so I decided that what I would do is pull them all back up. So once I'd pulled it all back up, I looked around my workspace and I saw this, the background for the stencils for Prima, for the 12 by 12 stencils for Prima. And so I took that background, it's got kind of a doily look to it, and I added that to this. But first I ripped around where the doily edge was, and then I inked it with some StazOn, black StazOn, and then I covered it with the gel medium, the matte gel from Golden is what I usually use. And from there, I just kind of pressed it down and covered it up and added it like that. So I really liked that doily look, and that was what I really wanted to keep, was the doily look. So I thought it was perfect. I could add my title, I could add my flowers, and then I'm pretty much done. But then I realized I had this paint on my desk that I really haven't used all that much. And it's a golden fluid paint, and it's an iridescent pearl, like a really fine iridescent pearl. And I really love that paint, but it's been sitting on my desk waiting, and I'm not really a bling person, so I don't really use it. So this was the project I was going to use it on. So once I got this page all nicely glued down and set in place, I decided, okay, the next thing that I'm going to do once this is dry is I'm going to roll on some of that iridescent paint, and it's going to make that doily pop right off the paint. It's going to be so shiny and perfect and pearly. And so that's what I do, is I trim the edges up. And so the mat that's underneath there, that is a quilting mat. So it's already one of those self-healing mats that you can run your quilting blade across. So I often just use that as it is. And over time, it does get a little bit rough, but then I just change the orientation of the mat, or I can always cut the mat smaller into 12 by 12 pieces once I totally wear it out, and buy a new larger mat, which is expensive, so I don't want to do that too much. But so here comes the iridescent medium. I just put a couple drops on, and I didn't know if I wanted to leave it like that And then I looked at my desk again and thought, oh no, I got a brayer here. I'm going to grab my brayer and I'm going to make this all nice and smooth and shiny and patchy and just fabulous. And I really wanted to get the edges of where the black was because I wanted the black and shiny and the layers in there of the paper to kind of shine through. And then I thought, you know what? I want things to stick, and I don't know if they're going to stick to this iridescent pearly, so I'm going to add a little bit of gesso to it as well and give it that distressed or chunky kind of look. Now, I was still thinking that I wanted the doily to show through, so when I'm done this, the doily does still show through. And the way that I made sure that happens is I pushed really, really hard when I was brayering, and that allowed some of the paint to come up in some areas, and right here, some of the paint to go, you know, darker and thicker, some of the paint to come up, some of the paint to be textured, and that was really exactly what I was looking for. And then I just kind of layered on this iridescent medium again and again and again until I got the amount of shine that I wanted, because it kept blending in with the gesso, the white gesso that I'd put on there. So I wanted to create the right mixture to get just enough shine that I was happy, and just enough that I could see through the shine of it and the white of it to that doily, that look of that paper. And so I pick it up and shine it differently against the light, and then I'm like, okay, this is great, I'll add in my flowers now. So I pieced together my flowers again. Now they're all a sticker, and I've pulled them off and they've been gessoed underneath, and they're not going to stick. So what I'm going to have to end up doing, once I get them all figured out exactly where I'm going to have them laid out, is place them down there and then glue them on with my matte gel again. With my matte medium, sorry. So I've stuck it down. It's not sticking because it's a sticker and I had it stuck to the gesso previously. So what I'm going to do is grab some of that matte gel once I have everything placed, and I'm going to put some underneath. I'm going to put some over top. I realize now that it's not going to work to just put it over top, so I pull the whole sticker off, cover the area in matte gel, which totally defeated the purpose of having the shininess. Putting a matte layer over top of a shiny layer just takes away the shiny of the shiny layer. So kind of defeated the purpose there, but I still had the shiny layers along the edge of the paper, so that's kind of, I'm happy still. So as I'm gluing down these flowers, the problem is that everything is still wet underneath. I didn't give it any drying time. So the iridescent medium and the gesso are being dragged across it, which is dulling the color, which I'm actually really happy with, because I didn't know if I loved how bright those colors were on the die cut or on the sticker. So that made me pretty happy. And then I was looking at it, and I was looking at the doily going, there's a face in this doily. And then I thought, no, I don't want to put a face on this page. But there's a face in this doily. So I started at the bottom and I thought, you know, I want this face to stop here. I want this face to stop it by the time that I get to these plants. So I'm going to draw in some lips. And I didn't know if I was going to draw half a face or a whole face or what. But the lips turned out absolutely fabulous. And I challenged myself here because I didn't want to be erasing on gesso. So I just grabbed my Stabilo All Black and pencil, and that is water soluble, and I just drew on the face. And you know, having in my mind that I could not erase really allowed me to focus in on exactly what I wanted. You know, usually eyebrows are my nemesis, and today the eyebrows just worked out just perfectly. And I think it was because I enjoyed that Stabilo pencil so much. So I drew in the mouth and then the nose and the eyes, and everything just came together just perfectly. So I'm at this point thinking I want this kind of washed out look like I had with the flowers. And I thought, you know, I'm just going to do the Stabilo pencil. I've seen a lot of that, a lot of the people in the Craft Shack crafters community going through and using these pens where they draw everything in them, and then they use a little bit of water, and it just kind of flows and looks like this watercolor kind of look. And I really like that and had been thinking about that, and I thought, you know, I'm just gonna do it like that. I'm just gonna have her be in black and white and just leave it simple like that. So then I started playing with the hair, and as I went in and started drawing things in and playing with the hair, and I thought I'm gonna activate this with my water barreled paintbrush. So I thought, oh, I'll just add a little bit of color to her hair, a little bit of depth to her hair, a little bit more black. We'll just add in the streaks of hair here and give it some, you know, some depth. And you know, this is good. Yeah, this is the direction I want to go. This is exactly how I want this to be. Okay, once I activate this with water, it'll be exactly what I was looking for. So I activate it with water. That is a water barrel paintbrush. So I activate it, and I did want that loose watercolor kind of look to it. I didn't want it to be tight. I didn't want to draw the exact lines. I wanted you to see dark places and light places and have it have all these different shades of differentiation in there. And so I just kind of went over top and let it do what it was doing. And by the time that I was done this, I was like, oh, I'm going to have to add some color to this face. I'm going to have to tie this face into the plant somehow, because the plants, you know, they've got a smidge of black, but it's not going to blend well together. The page isn't cohesive yet. So I went through and activated all of the Stabilo pencil slowly, and I keep going and taking my brush off to the side and kind of wiping it on a Kleenex here and there, because some of my watercolor, or sorry, my water barrel paintbrushes, for some reason they flow too fast. No matter what I do, they flow too fast. So I end up with puddles. I guess this is a brand new one that I'm using here. But I get her little nose in there, I get her lips, and I'm loving this face. And you know, as I'm drawing, I don't really pay attention to what I'm drawing when I'm drawing faces, or if I'm drawing somebody in particular. I go through and I draw the picture, and then later on I'll take a look and go, oh wow, that looks like that person. But as I'm drawing this, as I'm watching the video to narrate it, and as I was watching it to edit it, I started thinking about who could this possibly be. And I'll tell you at the end who it ends up reminding me of. But so what I do is I grab my watercolor crayons, and this color is called Salmon. And the reason that I didn't color it right on the page, I colored it off to the side there, is because I wanted to keep with the idea of the washed out look from the flowers. And technically she's in behind the flowers, so she should be lighter than the flowers. And so I wanted to just give a bit of a color wash to her face. I didn't want it to be overly thought about. I just wanted to make it so that she wasn't a white ghosty kind of look to her. And so I go through and add in the color, and everything's great and grand, and I just kind of keep going. I kind of got lost in the art, which is fabulous. I love it when that happens. And I just, you know, kept going and going until I felt like she was finished. So that color, I'm only adding the same color over and over in little layers, and it's a watercolor brush, so there's water already mixed in with the stuff on my side of my paper there. And as I'm adding, it's adding in more water as well. So that makes it even more important that this page is sealed with the gesso and the iridescent medium and the extra layer of paper, because as I add layers of watercolor medium to it, I'm going to end up with problems if I had just done this over top of the cardboard. So the nice thing about these Neocolor 2s is that even once they're dry, you can go in with these water barrel brushes and you can just gently smooth out any harsh edges. And you never really have to worry about causing too much damage, because you can keep adding and taking away and adding and taking away and adding and taking away as much as you want. So I gave her that washed out look, and then I wanted a little bit more color, so I went directly to the crayon. This is still the salmon crayon, it's all the same color, and I took the pigment straight from the crayon and added it into the face, just to add that next shade of coloring and tint in there. And it worked out really, really well. But I thought, you know, well, let's keep going. Let's add in all of the highlights. Let's add in all of the shadow. but I still wanted the washed out look, so I was still keeping things quite soft. So the next color that I grabbed was this brown, and the brown that I'm using here is called brown. Imagine that. I really like the Neocolor Tools as well because a lot of the colors are just simply the color, which makes it easier to find the color you're looking for. So I grabbed my brown and I just put it off to the side because once again I didn't want that heavy duty kind of color. I didn't want a heavyweight color in there. I wanted it to be nice and soft and smooth. And so I just went in and added it from the side panel there, just so I could get the color in without causing too much depth. I didn't want it to be brown. I just wanted it to be a bit of a shadow. And then I go in with a little bit more brown, and I'm going in with a wet brush just to clean up where things have bled. And then the thing about Neocolor Tools is that they are a water-based medium, and so what you end up with is a watercolor kind of look to it sometimes. And so when I'm doing this, I do go in and soften those edges just with a plain water brush, or I do go in and soften the edges by adding more color. And if you see me there, I'm just adding in the same pigments I've used before, the same colors I've used before. I'm using the previous colors to blend the new shades and tints and colors and making it so that everything is kind of smooth. Because when you look at somebody's face, it's very infrequent that you're going to find hardline shadows on their face. It's going to be very subtle how things change and the grade changes and stuff. So I just keep going through and smoothing that all out. And sometimes if you get too much water, you have to let it dry a little bit, and then you can go back in and fix the hard edges. And then let it dry a little bit and go in and fix the hard edges. And if sometimes you add too much water and it takes away all the darker pigment and takes you right down to the gesso. So it is a matter of playing with it and trying to figure out exactly what you want. In here I'm just using a wet brush and I'm wiping off on a Kleenex so that I can have it nice and clear. In there I'm just adding a little bit more of the salmon because I want to lighten up parts of her face. And I'm trying to smooth out where I've added the shadows as well because some of them are quite harsh still. So as I'm looking at her, I still haven't decided what color her eyes are going to be. I haven't decided what color her lips are going to be. I'm kind of looking at those flowers going, can she have red eyes? No, I don't want her to have red eyes. Can she have yellow eyes? No, I don't want her to have yellow eyes. Can she have green eyes? Oh, well, I'm sure she could have green eyes. And I'm looking at the flowers going, I don't even know if I have a red that matches those flowers. I really should have thought this through before doing this. Maybe I'll just leave her just like this without pigment. And then I went through and I found that I have this carmine red in the Neocolor Tools. And carmine red is a very bright red. And so I added black to her lips first. Now, I did this a little bit wrong in that I added the black Stabilo, and the black Stabilo is a permanent once it's dry. And so not only did I have problems in adding the red in, but it was bleeding outside the line of her lips because I had a wet surface beside where I was creating another wet surface, so it's obviously going to take the path of least resistance and flow from one to the next. So I had to take my wet brush and keep going around the edges to try and fix the damage I'd caused by doing wet beside wet. So, and that's all I'm doing is I'm taking away color, I'm putting color back in, I'm taking away color, putting in color back in. And this, I'm lucky here because this brush is not the one that overflows, that flows too fast. This one is a nice smooth one, so I'm happy with that. But I am still having to pull you with the wet brush, and I'm going to have to put color back in eventually because now I've got taken away all of the skin tone pigment from between where her lips and nose are. So I will have to go back in to fix that. So when I pick a color for lips, I use that color throughout the face. I take that color and I push it into the cheeks and I push it into the eyeliner. And because I wanted that nice color, the nice rich red in there, I decided I'd take it right from the crayon to do her eyelids. And once they have eyelashes on, most of these girls that I draw, once they have eyelashes on, you don't even really see the red anymore on their eyelids. It's only just little glimpses of it that you can see. Or it often kind of looks more brown than red. That's another thing I will sometimes do, is use browns instead of the reds and pull the browns from the edge of the face, from the shadowing of the face into the eyelid. And that allows for a lot of color too. When I'm using blue eyes, when I choose to use blue eyes, I will often use a brownish red to go over the eyelids. And when I'm using greens, I'll go towards, you know, real reds or blues, or, you know, but for the most part, when I'm drawing, I prefer to grab the color of the lips and put it into the eyelids and into the cheeks as well. It kind of brings the face all together in a more cohesive place. Now the face needed to dry. Everything, I didn't want anything to shift anymore, so the face needed to dry. So I went into an old paper pumpkin kit and I found these stamps, and this one says take note, and there's some arrows, and there's a little flag that says the date. And I just kind of pushed them on here and there throughout the page because I wanted to bring some black throughout the page, and I wanted some stamping in there. And the other thing was that this is for my December daily, so I wanted it to have that kind of stamp of approval or agenda type, you know, little elements to it. And so that's why I added all these little things in there. And these arrows too are from that Paper Pumpkin from Stampin' Up. Paper Pumpkin is a kit club that you can get each month, and they always have different unique projects. These cardboard letters, the raw chipboard, they came from that kit as well, and from the Paper Pumpkin kit as well. This is a really old one. I'm sure that it's a year or even 2 years old. So I don't know that you can even find this anymore, but these are letters from that kit. So what I did is I went through my Neocolor IIs and I grabbed this olive green, and the olive green matched the flowers quite closely. It matched the leaves and stuff that I already had on the page. And then I grabbed this brown because it was a neutral tone, but I don't have any brown really in the face really. I have it a little bit in the shading, but that's about it, and that's why I used it. It's because it's already part of the face. And then I went over with the watercolor brush and I added it in, and the chipboard is absorbing the watercolor quite quickly, so I can keep adding color until I get something that is both soft and full of pigment quite quickly. And that's what I do, is I just fill it up, make it all nice and solid, and if you get these too wet, the layers will separate, so I didn't want to do that, but I did want them to be nice and colored. So I'm doing the red, and then I'll pull off the red crayon itself and add those in there too. And then same with the brown. I'll activate the stuff that I colored onto the letter, and then I will go over it again as it absorbs into the chipboard in order to give it a nice cohesive, you know, even color. And in between, I'm wiping off my brush off to the side there on a piece of Kleenex or paper towel or baby wipe. And so once the letters are there, they're going to dry quite quickly because they're so they're absorbing it really quick, and it's going to dry out really quick. So everything is getting to be right at the right place that I want it to be. So I go over and grab that face one more time, and I'm going to add some more elements to it. And I'm looking at it, I still haven't really decided what color her eyes are going to be. I haven't really thought about who I think this person is. I've just drawn a person, drawn this woman. And I was sort of thinking about Christmas, but I was more thinking about being creative and mixed media and stuff like that. So I don't know that she really has any tie into anything really. I've been talking to this person quite frequently, and if you ask her if this looks like her, she's going to say no. So I think that this looks like a younger version of the person I'm thinking of, and most of it comes from once I put the color into the eyes. Now, no matter where we were in life, there was only one person who really made Christmas Christmas and always put a lot of work into making sure we had our Christmases. And she worked very, very hard to make sure that we always had a Christmas. And so this page is kind of going to end up dedicated to her because of that. And if anyone tells me that this doesn't look anything like her, I'm going to kind of agree with them because I don't know that it does look exactly like her now. It looks a lot like her when she was younger, I think, and it's the eyes that are going to make me think of her the most once I get that color in there. So I'm gluing on these letters with heavy gel medium from Golden. And I've got just a little pot there because I cleaned out a jar and that was the remnants of the jar that I'm using now. I'm almost done with that jar, and then I've got a brand new one sitting ready for me. And I like them. I like that heavy gel because it glues on weighted elements really quick and easy. Like if I wanted to glue a whole bunch of metal things to a canvas or something, that's what I would use to get it to stick on, is the Golden heavy gel. So now that I'm done most of everything, I'm still thinking about her eye color, and I just cannot pinpoint what eye color I want on this girl. I don't want to add in blue simply because there's no blue in the page, but blue is where I would naturally be drawn to simply because my eyes are blue. So I decide, okay, I need more brown to tie in those letters. I know that there's already brown in the highlights of her face, but I need a little bit more brown. And as I add this, I'm thinking, wow, that really made that pop. That's exactly what it needed. And then I even out the layer there. Instead of it being a heavy hard line, I'm going to make it nice and soft just by adding a little bit more water in along where the pigment stops. And then it allows it to flow a little bit more again. And I feel like that really popped her off of the page, and I'm happy with that. So the next thing I'm going to pop off the page is maybe her eyes. Oh, I'm putting on her eyelashes because I haven't decided yet what color her eyes will be. So I go in and putting in eyelashes, I always follow the line from the corner of the eye. So the inside corner of the eye, when I draw in my eyelashes, it doesn't often have eyelashes in it. Usually the eyelashes start, a little ways, maybe a third from that corner, a third away from that corner. And then there's just kind of like little check marks or little wispy things that come up from the eyelash. Now, when I'm using my pen, this is a F Pitt pen from Faber-Castell, and it usually gives you a certain line type, but if you angle your brush instead of writing perfectly up and down, then it gives you a different line weight. So when I'm doing in eyelashes, I will do it sometimes with the pen perfectly up and down so that I get a thick line weight, and then I will do it, change the angle of my pen so I get thinner and thinner line weights. So here it is. I've added in the green. I'm bringing the green into the face because there's no green in the face yet. And maybe that was obvious from the beginning, but it wasn't obvious to me. And so I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, well now I got to darken up those pupils. So I grabbed some black from the Stabilo All, and once again I've got this flow problem where I created the green flow for the eyes, and then I added in the wet Stabilo, and it's flowing right into the green, and it's really making a mess of it. But I'm finding that I really like what it creates. It creates this watery, dreamy kind of look, but there's a lot of depth in that look. And I just love how that ended up coming out. Now, if you're going to ask me who has green eyes, that's my mother. Now, my mother doesn't exactly look like this, but if I look at a picture of her from her youth, sitting there somewhere smiling, or just sitting there drinking her coffee, looking out the window or something, this is the kind of face that I remember her having. This soft, full of depth, wonderful type of look to her face. So that's actually a really fabulous memory, or a fabulous thought for me, that when it came to the end of this page, that's what I ended up creating, was a likeness of my mother for this year. And after I thought about it for a while, why would I draw my mother? Why would I paint my mother? And I was thinking about it and thinking about it. And turns out I have been talking to my mother more in the last couple months than I have in a large portion of my life. And we've really improved our relationship over the last, I would say, since my children were born, actually. And so I had just got off the phone, and there was part of this project when I had just started drawing the face where I had the phone to my ear and I was talking to her as I was drawing the face. So it's absolutely natural that it should be her face that comes out of my pencil. And I really like it. I really like where this picture went. So in the event that I've got nothing to remember my mother by, well, here we go. I've got a perfect thing. So once this page dried overnight, I went in with my, I think this is a Faber-Castell Pitt pen as well. Let me see. Yeah, it's the Pitt Artist pen in white, and it's the chunky one. It's the big one. And if you see what I'm doing there is I'm putting it on, and then I'm dabbing it off, and I'm putting it on and dabbing it off. It's an India ink, it's waterproof, and it's light fast, it's acid free. So you have to do it while it's wet, or else it's going to just stay exactly as you put it. And I like how this works because it doesn't move once it's down. And then once I'm done, I'm pretty much set for that. So then you've got to put a light into your drawing's eyes if you want them to resemble real life at all. And I love the depth that adding the white created for these eyes. And I love how she ended up. There's the letters. There's the little wood people I added afterwards. Some arrows. And there we go. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, and come back again.